Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Imagine a musical style born right beneath the swaying palm trees of eastern Cuba. Today, we're taking a cinematic journey into the absolute heart of a sound where Spanish guitars collided with African rhythms to create something totally unprecedented. We're talking about a story of how a localized, homegrown rhythm grew from these intimate little community gatherings into a massive global phenomenon that literally reshaped the entire music landscape forever. So, what is the invisible heartbeat of modern Latin music? It's a big question, right? But the answer is surprisingly simple and honestly, profoundly deep. Think about it. Without the regional folk rhythm we're diving into today, there would be no salsa as we know it. Period. Latin music all around the globe would sound, well, remarkably different. That heartbeat, that undeniable defining pulse, is Son Cubano. Let's look at exactly how this sound came to life. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, Birth of a National Sound. Spanish guitars meet African rhythms. To really understand the birth of this national sound, we have to travel way back to Cuba's Oriente province in the late 19th century. You see, this was a time and place of just incredible cultural convergence. You had these melodic traditions brought over from Spain, and they were blending with the deeply rooted, complex rhythmic traditions carried to the Caribbean by enslaved Africans. And out of this very specific historical crucible, a vibrant new musical language was born. But here's the thing, Son Cubano wasn't created in some sterile conservatory or, by royal decree. No, it was the everyday people who built this genre. They used this music as an emotional outlet, basically transforming their daily joys, their hardships, their unique humor, and their enduring hope right into song. This wasn't just music to pass the time. It was a vibrant new language that united cultures and created something completely fresh.
Section 2. Instruments of Son Cubano. Building the ensemble.
So, springing from those deep emotional roots, we have to look at the specific acoustic tools that gave Son Cubano its distinct, irresistible flavor. Building this ensemble was all about finding the absolute perfect equilibrium between different sonic textures. First, you've got foundational string instruments, like the tres and the Spanish guitar, working alongside the deep, resonant thump of the marimbola or double bass. Then, you start layering in the percussion. You get the sharp crack of the bongos, the steady shake of the maracas, and the incredibly vital click of the claves. Add in a piercing trumpet and those expressive, storytelling vocals, man, you have an absolute masterclass in orchestration. Together, these instruments create just a flawless balance of melody, rhythm, and spontaneous improvisation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the single instrument that perhaps defines Son Cubano more than any other. I'm talking about the Cuban tres. It's this beautiful, guitar-like instrument, but it's strung with 3 pairs of strings. And when a skilled musician gets their hands on the tres, they produce what are called guajios. These are these bright, highly syncopated melodies that just instantly lock you into the groove. Honestly, it is the signature melodic voice of the entire genre. So the crucial point is right here in Section 3, the invisible clave rhythm, the heartbeat of son.
While the tres definitely gives son its melodic identity, there is a deeper, unseen force driving the entire ensemble. Let's break down how this actually works. First off, musicians describe the clave as their invisible guide. It's like a rhythmic compass. And trust me, attempting to dance to this music without following that compass, yeah, that is an absolute recipe for disaster on the dance floor. The primary variations are performed either in a 3-2 pattern, which literally feels like 3 strikes followed by 2, or it's reversed into a 2-3 pattern. But the real magic, the genius of it, happens in how this rhythm organizes nearly every single phrase in the song. It ensures that no matter how wild or complex the improvisation gets, every single musician stays perfectly connected. Basically, understanding the clave is absolutely essential to grasping Son Cubano.
Moving on to Section 4, Rural Son to Urban Havana. The music migrates.
With that incredible foundation firmly established, the music just couldn't be contained in the countryside forever. As we move into the early 20th century, musicians actually began to migrate. They traveled from the rural landscapes of eastern Cuba all the way to the bustling metropolitan capital. Picture this narrative contrast for a second. On one hand, you have Son's rural origins in the Orient province. It's defined by these intimate community gatherings, played on porches, small local settings. But then it hits urban Havana, and it causes an absolute explosion in popularity. Literally overnight, Son Cubano was dominating dance halls, cafes, and radio stations. It rapidly evolved from a regional folk style into the undeniable, omnipresent soundtrack of Cuban daily life. But here's the beautiful part. Even in the big city, the music never lost its soul.
Son Cubano is heavily built on call and response structures. The lead singer calls out a phrase and the chorus answers right back. This brilliantly encouraged audiences to actively participate rather than just passively sitting back and listening. Dancing and community participation were the absolute lifeblood of this music. It was all about sharing stories of romance, hard work, migration, and resilience. It emphasized deep human connection, wild improvisation, and just pure shared joy.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 5, the global salsa explosion. Son travels the world.
You know, a rhythm this powerful definitely wasn't going to stay confined to just one island. Tracking this chronological journey is absolutely fascinating. We go from those late 19th century origins in the Oriente province to completely taking over Havana's radio waves in the early 20th century. Then, by the mid-20th century, the music packed its bags and spread across Latin America, across the ocean to Europe, and very significantly, north to New York City, where it started mutating and evolving. Its rhythmic DNA fundamentally became the core of salsa, and it deeply influenced Latin jazz. And as we hit the late 20th century, we see a massive global revival that cemented its status as a timeless classic.
A massive part of that mid-century evolution was driven by some truly visionary musicians. Legendary artists like the great Arsenio Rodriguez took the traditional ensemble and just aggressively expanded it. I mean, he added more trumpets, he introduced the conga drum, and brought in a piano. This innovation, especially as it really took hold in places like New York City, directly laid the groundwork for the larger, brass-heavy, modern Latin music and salsa that we hear dominating the airwaves today. A real game changer.
Which brings us to Section 6, a worldwide musical revival. Timeless rhythms.
As music continued to modernize and digitize, something really incredible happened. Fast forward to the late 20th century, and the world suddenly found itself hungering for the pure, classic, acoustic sound of original song. It was time for a worldwide musical revival. And I gotta tell you, nothing captured that hunger quite like the Buena Vista Social Club project. It was an absolute watershed moment. It brought veteran Cuban musicians back into the recording studio to play classic son, and it sparked a global phenomenon. It introduced these rich, carefully preserved traditions to millions of new listeners, literally taking the music from small Havana rooms straight to the most prestigious international concert stages.
That revival proved once and for all that Son Cubano is far from a museum piece. It is a living, breathing art form. Today, it continues to inspire a staggering variety of musicians. We're talking from traditionalists in Havana to jazz players in Tokyo, from salsa bands in New York to fusion artists in Buenos Aires. Modern artists are constantly reinterpreting these timeless rhythms, proving time and time again that very few styles have influenced global popular music as profoundly as this one.
Which brings us to the core takeaway of this explainer. Extraordinary cultural achievements often emerge when different traditions meet with openness and creativity. That, right there, is the true legacy of Son Cubano. It is the story of how a regional folk tradition took the absolute best of Spanish melody and African rhythm, mixed them together in a spirit of shared humanity, and ended up uniting people across different languages, oceans, and borders.
So I leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up. Will you listen for the invisible Clave in the next song you hear? Once you tune your ear to it, I promise you'll start hearing its pulse in pop, jazz, and rock music all over the world. It's a true testament to rhythm's universal power. Thank you so much for joining me for this journey. Subscribe to Sphereblend to musical traditions, customs, and stories.